Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Goals Do Come True with me, Doug Bennett, the Goals Guy. Today, I'm joined by Lee Smith. Now, our paths crossed a few years ago, and we're in a joint group. We're just catching up about that before we came on. And he was telling me a bit about his businesses, plural. He's got 5 or 6 or 7 that he's running, and mergers and acquisitions is what his bag is. And he's got a heating, ventilation and air conditioning business as well, which is HVAC. And obviously he knew that, but I had no idea what that meant. So I had to ask him. But anyway, it's good to have you on board, Lee. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're getting on to at the moment and how goals fit into your life.
Okay. So it's been a long journey. I kind of got brought up on a council estate, so I never really had a financial wealth vision growing up. But I always had an idea that I wanted to be wealthy. We had a very rich uncle who wasn't really an uncle, and he would always kind of turn up in a flash car. So I always had a vision, but then I left school, went straight into work, started my own businesses, wasn't really successful at doing that. I got them to like a glorified job level. And then in 2013, I came across mergers and acquisitions. Absolutely blew my mind. And then ever since, I've been buying businesses. And goals are central to everything that I do. And they always have been, not always have been. Since I started a business, it's been central. And I think the more you learn about goals, the more you kind of focus on them, and the more ambitious you get, you stretch those goals, and of course you achieve more. You know, if you aim for the stars, you reach the moon kind of mentality.
Absolutely. So I'm interested in how you can manage to run multiple businesses. I mean, I run 2, and I'm a trustee for the Army Football Association, and I don't find the time. So how do you manage it? That's got to be the one thing everybody needs to know, is like, how the flip do you manage 5, 6, 7 companies?
It's amazing. Okay, so when I had one business, I was pretty much as you described. I was the in-house lawyer. I was the MD. I was the salesperson. I was the HR person. All of those things. And this was a 200,000 revenue business. As soon as I learned mergers and acquisitions, I grew that to 500,000, and then I was stressed. But then I learned after I learned mergers and acquisitions, I took on a PA who ended up being absolutely amazing, hungry, ambitious, hyper-organized. And I realized, in fact, she offered, "Can I help out in your business?" I'm like, "Yes, please." So she took over absolutely everything. She became the MD, and I just managed the things I liked, which was looking at the bank account and paying staff. I actually really enjoyed paying staff, and I still do that to this day. That business is now doing just over 2 million revenue, and I spend 2 hours a month on that company. And every business I've ever got involved with, I don't run them anymore, because I realized I'm actually not very good at running a business. I'm very good at the strategy and saying, I want to get to X, and then putting the right people in place. So now when I buy businesses, I never buy 100%, because I want to keep the key people carrying on doing what they're doing, but I'm just giving them a much bigger vision of wealth in the future. So I'm kind of setting their goals for them. So I set my own goals, but I will go into a meeting and say, look, if you sell this business, you'll get, for example, £1 million. But if we build it along with a few other companies, you'll get 2 million after you give me a percentage. So everybody wins in that scenario. So my days are still busy, but instead of working inside of a company, I'm drawing diagrams and plans on how we're going to get to the end goal where everybody wins. That's pretty much my job, day in, day out.
And your PA, is she still with you?
She's the ops director, managing director, still doing a fantastic job. And I've now got 3 of those people running the 3 main businesses that I have.
That's the way to do it, isn't it?
I'm finding I find great operators, and I add a bit of rocket fuel behind them using mergers and acquisitions.
I'm speechless, right? Honestly, because it's like, right, well, that makes an awful lot of sense. Now, how do you find somebody where you can just light the blue touch paper and they take your business for you? How do you find those people?
Well, I contact a lot of businesses, and there's a lot of them that are listed for sale already with business brokers. I tend to avoid those because they've been pretty much sold a lie in general with the business brokers. So I find somebody who's kind of aligned with me, someone who doesn't necessarily want to sell. He's good at what he's doing, but they've either reached a plateau, and that's probably the most common theme I'm finding at the moment. They've either reached a plateau, or my new business partner 6 months ago, he was working for, it was almost £100 million company, and I tried to acquire it. But in the process, it turned out that he should really have had shares in that business. And because he didn't, and we started talking, I said, well, why don't you come and join me, and let's go and build an empire. So he did join me, and we are building that empire now because he's fantastic at what he does. He's got access to clients, he's got access to personnel, and I know how to go and buy businesses. So now we're going out, and it's super exciting. I'm having one of the times of my life at the moment, building something with him, and literally everybody wins in the process.
Except the firm he left, because they've...
Except the firm.
But they weren't recognising his power and rewarding it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now we're taking the best bits of that business, the best clients and the best personnel, and building something where people are happier. The culture wasn't that great in that business because the owners didn't care about the business. All they were doing was extracting money.
That's another big lesson there. Big, huge lesson. Care about your company, care about your staff.
Yes.
Because without your staff, without your people, you don't have a business. So they are actually more important than your clients in many instances, in my opinion.
Absolutely. A business is the team.
Okay. So what would be the tips that you would use to, pull the team in there and get them sort of on board? I mean, I'm guessing this guy, he's got the connections. He knows the contracts that the people in the old business are on.
Yes.
So he knows what they're allowed to do. Now, I would imagine there's probably a few little clauses that you need to smooth through in their existing contracts, or very often is that not the case? And the contracts, the employment contracts that they've got, non-competing clauses or anything like that.
There was no NDA, there was no circumvention, there was nothing in place whatsoever. So he was free to do whatever he wanted after his notice period.
Okay. Another tip for people.
Another big tip, always have shareholders agreement. I mean, he wasn't a shareholder, but yeah, of course, you need to lock your clients and people down in a way that protects the business.
Okay. And this is, no, I like that. And this is the important thing about this is like, right, okay, because we've got people that are growing businesses, and they need to be aware that, M&A exists. Because so very often it's like, we're trundling along and, we get to a stage and it's like, right, and now what? That's very often the case. Now what?
Yes.
Because you run out of energy.
You do, and it's actually amazing. Yeah, I wish I'd have learned it quicker, but yeah, it's completely transformed my life, to be honest. Every business has a weak section, so if you go and buy somebody who's got a strong area where you're weak, it can be an overnight transformation in your company, which is exactly what happened to me. In an afternoon, I doubled my business 3 times by merging with 3 companies. It didn't cost me anything to merge 3 times and take us from 200,000 revenue to 2 million revenue.
Wow. And you said that you've got a little busy couple of weeks because...
Yeah, we have about 5 deals at the moment where the owners want us to get something agreed before the 5th of April, before the
tax year end.
The tax increases.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like I say, it's a very busy, exciting time. We're building something where all of those owners we're bringing along on a journey where their share values are going to be worth substantially more once they join our group.
And what difference does it make to their lives? Kurt, I'm presuming that you've gone through. I've seen from your profile, you've got 30 of these scenarios under your belt. So, do the guys come join you? We build the business. Their value increases. So now all of a sudden they're in a position where They might have been able to sell it for 1 million, as you said earlier, but now it's 2 million. By the way, 1 million quid isn't enough money.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Not anymore, as I found out. Throwing a divorce doesn't work either at all. Yeah, sometimes a divorce is worth it.
I've been there, so I know.
Yeah. But okay, so now we're at sorry, what I'm trying to get to is how long is that process sometimes? That they've gone from 1 million quid asset value to a 2 million quid asset value. At that point, presumably, they leave the business, or is it like, well, no, I've got a new injection of energy, so I really want to stay where I am, carry on growing, or do you get someone to say, right, now I'm done. Thank you very much, Lee. You made a huge difference to my life. I'm off. How's that work?
There's lots of different scenarios. So I used to get involved in distressed companies, and I think it was 2015. There was a lady I came across, big business. She was an expert in her field, but she had £500,000 worth of debt on a 600,000 revenue company. So I came on board as a shareholder. Within 4 weeks, I had got her debt down to almost zero. She had a £600,000 business with no debt, which would have been worth probably 500,000. So we effectively took her from zero value to 500,000 value in 4 weeks. Now that was a unique situation, but that just shows you the power of how quickly you can do things. And that was a debt situation she was in, and we were able to restructure and help her. And then we sold her shares back to her 10 months later. So everybody won in that scenario. But what we're doing now is different. We're building a group of businesses. It could be 5 to 10 businesses in the end. And we've given them a 2-year window where we want to take them from some of the businesses at the moment of making 100, 200,000 profit. And our target is 10 million profit in 2 years. So it's substantial game changer. So their company isn't worth what it should be right now. So there's two pieces. Number one, we're going to make their business worth what it should be, which is either debt restructuring, increasing the revenue, cutting overheads and costs. And then by being part of a group, instead of selling for a multiple of 3, they can sell for a multiple of 7 or 8 inside of this group. So we're lining up the buyers while we're fixing the businesses along this 2-year journey. So it's going to be a very busy 2-year period, but everyone is bought into the concept because everybody sees what's happening in the UK, which is completely other topic.
We're not going to go there.
That's an hour on its own.
No. Yeah, well, it's an hour on its own, but we want to be uplifting and positive, and potentially not date the episode. Okay, so goals then for you. Presumably, you said earlier that you instill goals in your work associates just by the very nature, so that some of the businesses are they're just meandering, and now we go right now's the time. This is where we're going, and so those goals. I mean, do you have a formal process that you use for that to get them on board, or is it just your enthusiasm that does it?
For business owners and for my existing board members, yes, I instill kind of what the goal and the vision is, which is great. And in an ideal world, they would feed that down to the teams. It doesn't always happen, but in one of my main businesses, that is working very well, which is my HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning company. So there is a framework, and intellectually I know how to do it, but because I'm so busy, I don't get to do that. So my main job is to sit with business owners and explain to them where they are, what they're likely to get, and what they're likely to get if they join us as a group of businesses. That's what I really enjoy doing, because most people don't really think about it. They're running a business. It can be an amazing business. It could be a 8-figure business. They still don't really have an idea of what they could get for their company or an end vision. So I instill that right from the beginning. Yesterday I was in a meeting and I explained to them what their company could potentially be worth in 2 to 3 years based on the conversations we'd had, and then showed them what the company would be worth if they didn't own all of it. And it was substantially more than what it is today if we came on board and helped them grow and they didn't own 100%.
And that's the thing. Yeah, I think some people, it's my baby. I've built it. And, the difficulty is giving a bit of that away. But it sort of makes
I know.
sense.
I was
It
the
sort of
same.
makes sense. Yeah.
I was the same, and I went from being 100% shareholder to 50% shareholder, but my shares were worth more than they were when I owned 100%.
Yeah. And that's
So
the win.
sometimes you have to do it. Yeah.
That's the win. Okay. So what would be a perfect scenario for you, or say a client or a perfect opportunity for you, just in case anybody's listening and they're in that position and they want to potentially, exit in 5 years with a considerably bigger share of a business?
It's probably the conversations we're having every week. So we've got 3 particular companies at the moment. They're doing a couple of million revenue. One of them's doing 6 million revenue, and they're all pretty much in the same place. They're not producing the profits that they should do, and they've either reached a plateau and don't know how to get where they want to get to, or they do know, but it's going to take 3 to 5 years. Whereas if they come on board with us, no, we can get them there in 2 years or less.
Because you've got the framework.
And the experience. I've got the people there that have been there, done it. They've sold businesses. They've grown a company from 20 million to 80 million. So going into a business that's doing 2 million and growing that to 5 million is not that difficult, because they know the frameworks. They've got the personnel to do it.
Sounds easy.
And that's essentially it. It sounds easy, and it is easy.
I'm being dry. But it has taken you all this experience there, to get to that.
Yeah. It's taken me this long to find the good people who can actually do what they say they can do.
Yeah. I like that. So I reached out to you and said, look, come on my podcast, and you've accepted, and I appreciate that. So did you have a goal for coming on the podcast?
I didn't, Doug. We'd met. I liked you, and you're the goals guy, and I love goals. So it was a really easy answer to say yes, because I think goals are essential for everybody, and not everybody. In fact, I probably would say the minority of people have goals.
I think it's about 8 or 9%.
Yeah, which is
criminal.
It's criminal. It's sad, because I think everybody needs goals in every area of your life.
So what
there's a certain energy.
Yes, yeah. Well, it gives you a reason to get up in the morning. Gives you a bit of direction. Gets rid of some of the mental anguishy type issues that people have. I think if you've got some focus, if you've got no idea where you're going, I mean, all roads lead there for a start. You just getting some focus in. So, how do you do your goals? Do you use an app, or is it paper, or what's the philosophy behind your goals and goal setting?
It's adapted over the years, as you would imagine. So I have whenever I lose track of my goals, I've got a PowerPoint now I'll bring up, and it tells me what my monetary goals are, and it's got a vision, typical vision board on there, whatever that will be. It'll be different for everybody. And it tells me what I need to achieve every week towards those visions, which is really key. Like the baby steps towards it, which is meditate every day, which I meditate every day. It says go to the gym 4 times a week. I've stopped doing that for the last 3 months because I'm severely injured in my arm, which is poor excuse. I should still be doing legs. I hate leg day. So yeah, there's certain steps towards those goals. So I've got the monetary ones. I do the visualizations. I do the meditations towards it. And I share these visions with my family as well. And we've been meaning to get out of the UK for several years, and my son keeps harassing me that we haven't done it yet. So my biggest goal at the moment is to do that this year.
Okay. Where might you be going, if you care to share?
Well,
it was going to be Dubai.
After many years of deliberating, we narrowed it down to 2 places. One was the Spanish mountains, but we decided on Dubai because of the quality of schools and the safety. So last Saturday, the same day that bombing started, is the day that I applied to the school for my son.
Right.
Which was incredible timing, but it's actually brought me back to my plan B choice, which was Spain, which actually was the best choice because I was going to build a retreat there. So in hindsight, I think it's actually going to deliver a better outcome for the family and for the future anyway, because we all love nature in the family. And Dubai is incredible, but one thing it does lack is real nature.
That's interesting that, I think we need to have a look at this a little bit here, because you were getting ready to apply, or you had applied, and then
I applied on the morning.
set of circumstances come up which said, well, maybe this isn't the right thing for you. And you meditate, so you're obviously in touch with, your thoughts and energy, I imagine.
Yes.
And as a consequence, the energy said, no, we need to be going in a different direction. So it's scary, that, isn't it?
It was interesting because I think when you do meditate, you are, I don't know, you are more open to shocks and traumatic events, those kind of things. I'm not saying you're shielded from it, but you can deal with it better. So it didn't really faze me. It just made me realize that why didn't I realize I was making that wrong choice?
Oh, you shouldn't beat yourself up.
No, not at all. But now I'm realizing that actually plan B should have been plan A all along anyway.
Yeah. But you had the choice. That's the thing. You had two plans.
Yes.
And, you're weighing them up. And that's, just having two plans is brilliant. One plan is perfect, but obviously having a plan B in this set of circumstances worked out very well for you. But so many people have a plan C, D, E, and there's you've got no chance in that regard. So just like narrowing it down to two options, and then one of those options being just a little nudge, if we can call an invasion of Iran a little nudge. To say now, I'm with you on Spain. I've been sort of looking at that myself, but in a motorhome, towing.
Remember we talked about that,
yeah, towing a enclosed trailer with my Harley in it. So
yeah, I love that.
So that
roads are beautiful, the countryside's amazing. That would be an incredible lifestyle.
And I can still do this. I mean, I'm sat in a little, I don't know, 9x7 room at the moment with a green screen, behind me, and it's like
you could do that anywhere.
There's not a great deal of difference, except waking up in the morning, looking out across the vistas of of the hills or whatever. And I was like, let's fire up the Harley. Let's see which roads we're going to go on today. Yeah, no, we're working on that. We're working on that. Me and my new girl. So that's all cool. I say new. She's been together for a couple of years now, so it's not new anymore. Okay, so if I was to ask you for a golden nugget on goal setting, something that we haven't touched on already, what would be a Lee Smith golden nugget on goal setting?
You've got, a lot of people find this too woo-woo, but when you have goals, you've got to not necessarily visualize, but you've got to feel what it's like to have already achieved those goals. It's not about I will have, because it's all about the energy and frequency. So if you say you are going to have something, that already means that you don't have it, and you're sending that energy. Again, a lot of people won't understand or believe this kind of stuff, but quantum entanglement, all of these things, it's real. It's real science. So you have to believe that you've already achieved those goals, which can be difficult intellectually for some people. But when I meditate in the mornings, there's specific meditations I do, which is all about abundance. And you've got to be in the moment that you want to get to in the present moment. That makes sense.
Well, it does to me, because I've been studying goals for 20 years. But for most people, it's like a load of old bollocks. But actually, folks, it isn't.
It's not. You look at most successful people.
It's a science now. There's a science associated with it. And, abundance mentality is a good thing. Growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset is a very important thing. Right, because I advocate writing your goals down, and the goals are always I have, I am, I do, rather than I want to, or
it's
a
whole
like
different energy and power.
Yeah, you're telling your subconscious what it is, and it can't work it out because it's going, well, that's not my reality at the moment, so I've got to make it my reality, because you're telling me that is where we're at. And so then it finds evidence to accelerate you towards the thing that you want to achieve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we're on the same page.
I've annoyed so many people by telling them I'm moving to Dubai. I've been posting about it on LinkedIn saying I'm moving to Dubai, but I was doing that for a reason, for the energy as well.
Yes. Yeah, I'm doing that with the motorhome. I'm doing that with the motorhome.
And it holds you accountable as well.
Well, that's the other thing. When you share it with people, that's where your accountability lies too. It's like, so when are we going to see on LinkedIn that it's actually now going to be the hills of Spain?
Yeah, by September, because that's when my son starts the next year of school. So by September.
I love that. I love that. So do you have the passport or lined up, or how's that going to work for you?
No, I've got multiple.
We'll find a way.
We'll find a way. I've got multiple residencies, so there's lots of stepping stones in between that and now, where I am now. But we'll do it. We'll do it. We'll find a way.
That's it. I love that confidence. We'll find a way.
I think it needs to happen. I know we don't want to touch on the subject, but because there's so many things happening in the UK, that's another kind of push to get things happening and moving.
Yeah. Okay. So aside from your 5 or 6 mergers that are going on this month, what other things are you working on?
I absolutely love traveling, so I travel a lot. So I've just come back from Mexico doing a Joe Dispenza meditation retreat, which was incredible. Off to Mexico in a few weeks to get residency there. So just working on options around the world as the world gets madder, and just make sure we're prepared for it.
Yeah. The world gets madder and it also gets smaller as well.
It does. It does.
And, we're sort of communicating across, and I've got guests from America, Australia. It's just so easy now to do all of this stuff that we need to, embrace that, I think, in that regard.
Yeah, I think it's amazing the options people have nowadays to live in their kind of dream locations and work. You can make it happen. It's incredible. I've got some suppliers who are like 20 years old with fantastic marketing businesses living their dream out in Philippines and Bali. It's so inspiring to see.
20-year-olds.
20-year-olds, yeah.
And that's the power. That's the power of computing power, and presumably are they social media-y types at 20, or what sort of people are?
doing Facebook marketing for us, really clued up, very, 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 very skilled at what they do, delivering for many businesses. So we've just taken them on, and it was fantastic meeting the owner. It's great. What a great way to live.
Yeah, and it's relatively inexpensive, I believe, in Bali.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, cost of living is incredible compared to the UK.
Yeah. Is there a way to get there in a motorhome? Just wondering.
Ship, definitely a ship.
Yeah, so there's going to be a bit of a shipping issue. Okay, so I appreciate that you're a busy man, but is there anything else that you want or would love to share with the audience today? We've got a lot of stuff packed in for the relatively short time that we've been together. But is there anything else here?
No, as I look at your title, Doug, that is the key thing. Goals. People do need to have goals for every area of their life. If they're unhappy with a situation, I would almost guarantee that they haven't got a goal for that area. Relationship goals, financial goals, travel goals. You've got to have these things to get where you want to. It's taken me a long time to get where I am, but goals have been the path towards that.
How young are you now?
I am very young, Doug. I am 53 years young.
53 years young. Excellent. I love it. Right. Well, Lee, look, I know you're a busy guy. You got a more challenging podcast recording later on today. Hope we've been gentle enough with you. Thank you very much for your insights. When we're the other side of the tax year end, maybe we'll have a chat and see if we can, delve into things a little bit more, and you can keep us up to date with the progress on the Spanish hills.
Would love to, Doug. Great to see you again.
And you, mate. Lee Smith, thanks very much for joining me on Goals Do Come True.
Thank you, Doug.
That was